how you doing, everybody? And welcome into There's Too Many Podcasts. It's a podcast about podcasts. My name is Chris Sheeman. I am your host, your MC, your friend, your best pal, whatever you want to call me. Some acquaintance, some guy, whatever. That's who I am. I'm here with you to help you navigate through another episode. And we got a pretty good one today. Lynn Layfield, Diaries is the podcast, and I really enjoyed talking to Lynn. This is a rare intro. This is a bit different. So I always do the intros after I interview the guest. Well, this one I'm doing like weeks after I interviewed Lynn. So I'm separated a little bit from this episode, and I'm also trying a different microphone. Things might sound different. A podcast about podcasts, and I think the theme for this season has been, what the hell are we doing production-wise? I'm just trying, ladies and gentlemen. We're all trying to navigate this thing called life, are we not? This big blue ocean and earth that spins around, that is what we're trying to do. And what are the impacts of the decisions that us humans make on this planet? Lynn's podcast is pretty lighthearted. I took it in a little bit of a darker tone with some, you guys know about the relationship problems I've been having already, but there's some really interesting topics that Lynn and I get into. But Lynn is, her podcast, very lighthearted, very fun, and the conversation, other than me being emo in parts of this conversation, is actually pretty entertaining. So I want to remind you before we get into the episode today, please, if you haven't done so already, give us a like on Threads, on Instagram, at There's Too Many Podcasts, and I'm also on the tweets. I still do the tweets, and I call them the tweets and Twitter, and that's at Chris Sheeman. That is where you will find the promotion for all of these episodes as we start to wind down season 1 here. Hard to comprehend that. Season 1 is already coming to a close pretty soon here. I've got to get back to doing the sports broadcasting stuff as summer starts to wind down, so this is not going to be a podcast that is going to be consistent in the fall and winter months, certainly. But we have a few more episodes to do here in Season 1, including, again, Lynn Layfield from the Diaries, who's going to join me here in just a moment. And before that, I think I need to pre-apologize to the running community. You'll find out. Here's me and Lynn. Enjoy it. Oh yeah, that's what we do here. We just start talking and see what the hell happens. I gave up on doing audio checks for this first season. I've determined that because even when I do the audio checks, it comes out like, so the past recording that I did, my microphone was way too high, so I have it at the exact same setting as that last one, and now it's way too low.
Yeah, it is one of the joys of podcasting. I feel like no two audios are ever the same. And I'm like you. I'm kind of meticulous. I'm kind of like, if I'm at 4 dots, I'm going to stay at 4 dots if that sounds good. And I will record again, same room, same conditions, same 4 dots, and it'll sound completely different. And I'm like, what did I do? I have no idea.
I just like the idea of, here I am hosting a podcast about podcasts, and I'm having my guest produce. That's the sign of strength, right? This is going to go a long, long time with that kind of professionalism.
You have to start somewhere, and I don't know that I'm at the professional level anyway.
Oh,
So no harm for sure.
I mean, what does professional even mean, really? So yeah,
I'm trying to define it.
Lynn Layfield, Diaries is this podcast, and I love this. I love this idea. I'll probably mention this in the intro that I do to this podcast, but just in case, because my brain is not working, just in case I forget, if you're somebody who loves to live in the past and also live in the future and never in the present, like me, Diaries is a perfect way. I think about decisions all of the time, and I think about everything that I've ever done, everything that I want to do, and what the possible impacts of that are or have been. And it's just a really, really cool. I know you do it in a very lighthearted way, and that's something that I really, really love as well.
Yeah, I really feel like there's not any bad decisions, and I
Oh,
we try
you'll
to
see.
talk. Yeah, yeah. Well, and even bad decisions are funny decisions, right? Bad decisions are still learning opportunities. And, I mention, starting a business in my early 20s when I had no business, starting a business, got a business loan, and it's just comical. It's comical that someone gave me a loan. It's funny that I went through it, and I'm glad that I journaled it because, at the time I really had convinced myself that I was quite something. And and I had no idea what I didn't know, and it's so great that I caught it on paper and I can laugh about it in my 50s, and I think that's healthy. And I also think that it's a teachable moment for, other people who may be in different stages of maybe that same decision, maybe something different, but I think decisions are kind of the beginning of great stories.
You know what, ladies and gentlemen? The cat has officially retreated into her hammock, so that means that the podcast is really now officially underway. Lynn, do you still have that same business?
No, I don't. I don't. And in fact, I'm in a completely different business. I mean, the funniest part about that is I was in computer software, and then I went to lingerie retail what I call soft software. It's so random. It's like, what was I thinking? I mean, what was I thinking?
Oh, God.
I
I'm
have no
biting
idea.
my tongue right now to make an inappropriate joke. Oh, stop. Don't
You
say
know
it.
what?
Don't say it.
I'm slightly inappropriate,
Don't
so
say it.
Chris, let it go. Let
It,
it go.
it wouldn't be soft software if it were me. But, boom. That's, see. Or maybe it would be. I'm 42. It could go either way, but that's
Yeah, and
that
you wanna know the whole irony of the whole thing is
please.
that after I closed down my retail store, it became a computer repair store.
Mm.
I mean, how ironic is that?
That is, I don't know. I'm not a religious person, but I think the universe just likes to play with us sometimes, and that might be a good example of the universe just having a little bit of fun there.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad to supply it with some input. Some low-hanging fruit, if you wanna say it if you wanna put it that way.
I love being the age. You got a few more uh, years of experience than I do, but I love being at this age because you get that perspective. And is that where that idea or this idea for a podcast came to you? Is having the wisdom of being able to look back on the decisions. I always tell people I'm dating somebody well, I think I'm still dating somebody who's younger than I am, and having the perspective of time and being able to live through the results of your decisions, even the bad ones, like you said earlier, it's really, really fun and it's hysterical, like you said, and it can be heartbreaking and difficult, I guess, as well. But is that where this idea came from? Was it just passage of time that made you think of this idea for a podcast?
It's kind of a whole combination of things. I mean, it's interesting because, as I'm at the point where my children are, grown, are in their
Who
20s,
are on the
right?
podcast with you sometimes?
Yes, they are, yeah, and they're in their 20s and, they're starting to make decisions that, are going to be more impactful. I do think that, kids make decisions all the time, and in high school, you could make some poor decisions, and that could definitely alter your life, but really in your 20s, it's really kind of like it's almost like you're a one-year-old again. There's so much growth that happens in your 20s, and what I was seeing was some of these 20-year-olds, some of them were making decisions and some of them were deciding not to move forward at all. Like there was just so much anxiety around making the wrong decision. And I really just wanted to kind of put out there that and you know, I'm ADD, so I'm not risk averse. I take a lot of risks all the time,
Hmm.
and I raised my children to take risks, but I was finding that, you know, some of these 20-year-olds were somewhat paralyzed about making the wrong decision, choosing the wrong college, you know, all these kind of things, and I'm like, it's all recoverable. Even bad decisions
Yes.
are recoverable, and, you know, that was one of the things that when I shut down my store, it was a very sad day. It was a sad day for me. It was a failure. It was a failure I wasn't prepared for. And, you know, one of my friends at the time said to me, "This is such a blip in the long span of your life." And, you know, I did get a husband out of it because, I mean, who doesn't want to date a lingerie store owner? So it wasn't like I left completely empty-handed.
There you go.
So there you go. But you know, at the time it seemed like it was this huge, you know, red scar on me and you know, and then when someone kind of gave me that perspective, I wrote down in my journal and then looking back and reading it, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I you know, I was really sad that day, but now look at me, it doesn't faze me at all. It's actually quite funny."
Yeah, totally understand that. Here's what happened to me. Second job out of college, I was working at a radio station, and this was around the Great Recession. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you hear the media talking about a recession, and usually we know beforehand, it's not some political plot. The reason why we know if a recession is coming or not is we're the first ones to lose our jobs because the first thing to go in a recession is advertising. And that is the entire media industry in a nutshell is advertising. So if you see these stories or if you see stories like that, I'm not talking about opinion pieces. I'm talking about CBS News. I'm talking about legitimate journalism. That is why. But, anyways, that's a little side piece there. Um, so, I remember working at that radio station and I was talking to the news producer. Shout out to Jeff Mears. I haven't seen him in maybe 20 years. And Jeff was talking about losing his first job. And he said, Chris, I couldn't get off the couch for 2 days. I just sat on the couch and I thought to myself, what a weenie. you know,
Right?
like it's a
Right.
job. And then, not even 2 months later, I'm let go. And guess what my weekend was? I was on that couch and I could not move. And I still remember watching a Detroit Pistons playoff basketball, first round basketball game, total innocuous viewing, but I remember it vividly because I was so numb in that moment. And it led to me starting a whole business and starting a whole new life that I absolutely love and adore. So, yeah, in those moments, boy, it seems like the worst thing ever, but if you can I don't know how you would. Maybe you're better to describe it than I am, Lynn. But it's almost like if you could take a negative and turn it into a positive, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and, you know, honestly, I I also, the fact that I think it was my mom who sort of made me start journaling because, you know, my teen years were so dramatic with the boys. I was a little boy crazy, and my teen years were so dramatic with the boys that my mom was like, "Well, if a boy breaks up with you, you know, write about him in your journal. You know, if you like a boy, write about it in your journal." I think she probably secretly read them just to make sure I wasn't on drugs or anything,
Yeah.
but she was the one that kind of got me doing that because she said, you know, "You need to get all of your thoughts out, and then you need to step away, go back and read your thoughts and be like, 'Okay, you know, there's gotta be something positive coming out of this,' right? I've learned something maybe by, by sort of stepping away from the moment and looking back at the moment. I've learned a couple of things. And so she really kind of got me, you know, like tomorrow is another day. That was really one of my mom's sayings. Every time, especially during the teen years, she
But
was
didn't
like,
you
"Hey,
hate
look."
hearing that when you were a teenager?
Oh, yeah, and I especially hated when my mom said, "Oh, it's so interesting watching you go through all these ups and downs. Meh, meh. It's like a fun little roller coaster that you're on." And I'm like, "It's not fun for me." I mean, I don't wanna go to school today. I don't wanna face this boy. I don't wanna
Mm-hmm.
face whatever else is going on. I don't wanna face it. My mom was like, "Nope, tomorrow's another day. The sun's gonna rise. You're gonna wake up. You're gonna face it, and then maybe a month from now you're laughing about it." So that was, having her in my life to do that, also, helped me with life. We my husband and I have lost our jobs multiple times. At one point, we both lost our jobs together with young children.
Oh my God.
And, we decided not to sit on the couch. We actually went for, some nice wine. We played tennis. We applied for jobs for about an hour. We got some, lingerie action in because the kids were at school.
And you had
And
the
then when we
time.
picked them up in the drive through, everybody was like, "Oh, look, it's the Layfields." And we're like, "Yeah, we've had a great day.
Wow.
We didn't spend any money because we didn't make any money, but, like, we're here to pick up our kids from school after, like, a fun day
That
without
is
them."
so wonderful. That is really wonderful because that same moment in my life, I don't think I handled it very well, and it does fill me with some regret. So, obviously, you lose your job. It's your second job out of college, and I think I was 24 or 25 at the time. That recession lasted quite a bit. It was a while before most of us, myself included, got back on our feet. So I was home. I had to move back in with my parents, and I'll never forget moving back in. You move back in with your parents at that age, and you go to go out, and they ask you where are you going, and it stuns you. It's like where am I going? I haven't had to answer that question in 7 years.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the regret comes from not salvaging that time and not appreciating that time. You know, if I knew that my dad was going to go, my dad was so excited that I was home. He was thrilled. He would follow me. If I went downstairs to use the computer, he went downstairs to use the computer with me. If I went upstairs to watch TV, he was up there watching TV with me. He wanted to do everything with me, and meanwhile, I was just this miserable spoiled prick who couldn't appreciate the fact that I had a home and I had a dad who loved the hell out of me, who was so thrilled, and all I was thinking about is I can't bring a girl here. What am I going to do with my life? And I do have some regret of not appreciating that time that with him because parents go.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's a good thing that I kind of parent with sarcasm, right?
Yeah.
I do believe that sarcasm is a great parenting tool. And a good example of, one of my children just sort of wallowing in a situation, right? My younger son in the 6th grade didn't get to be in the advanced placement class in the 6th grade, and he was ashamed and didn't wanna go to school because all of his friends got into the advanced placement math area, and he didn't get into that. And so we're driving on the way, and I'm looking at him sulking over there, and I said to him, I have an open job position at my company." And he's not really paying attention to me, and he's like, "Yeah, that's great." And I go, "Yeah." And I said, "I got their resume." And he's like, "Yeah." And I said, "And I saw on their resume that they didn't get advanced placement in math in the 6th grade." And I said, "Get the fuck out of here." And he looked over at me and he goes, "You did not?" And I go, "Right. I did not. Nobody cares about your 6th grade advanced placement math. This has no impact on your life." And so, and then we laughed the rest of the way. I was like, really perspective. perspective. So, and he was in advanced placement in English. I mean, whatever. He's better at English than he is at math, and he lived.
Right.
But my parents raised me with a lot of that sarcasm. So like when I graduated from college and I didn't have a job, they kind of did similar to what you're talking about. My mom was like, "Awesome, you're at home. Let's watch some soap operas together." And then my dad every night at dinner was like, "Are you really trying to find a job?" And I mean, I was like, "You've got to be kidding me." I mean, nobody wants out of this house more than this person does. Like I've been on my own and nobody wants out of here. And at one point my dad said something along the lines of, "It could be months before you find a job." And I just
Heartbreak.
lost it. I just lost it. Like it wasn't about like that I wasn't enjoying some time with my parents, but it was like I was ready to move on and, stay independent. And so it was just killing me. And my dad said that, and my mom was just like, "Not cool, husband. Not cool." Not cool at all.
Uh,
That one struck your daughter pretty deep. And then after that, he started saying it in a more sarcastic way, like, "Oh, what? You didn't get a job offer today? What?" And then I was like, "Oh, okay, Dad. Okay, right. We're bantering, so that's cool."
right.
Um, yeah, banter's good.
Banter is good. Let's banter some more, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so I've already had my first therapy session today, so I'm not going to turn you into my therapist, or I'm going to try not. By the way, if you're a man and you're worried about going to therapy, all you got to do is sit down and talk about yourself for an entire hour. I found it delightful to just, this person has to shut up and hear every word you have to say, no matter what you say out loud, and they have to sit there. Now, they're going to give you recommendations after you've spoken, but if you're a man and you are having struggles with anything, if you're a woman too, I'm in the Midwest. Men and women both suppress their feelings in the Midwest, but anybody. I mean, it was just tremendous. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I made
Yeah, well, I will tell you, I wouldn't be married if we didn't do that. If
Are you
my
guys in
husband didn't
couples
agree.
therapy, or do you do that?
Oh, we I believe in there's multiple stages of when you may need therapy alone or with somebody, but we actually one of the episodes is actually deciding to go to marriage counseling,
Mm-hmm.
I have my husband on there sort of. He went to work and he asked one of his coworkers, "Should I go to marriage therapy?" And their answer was, "Well, that depends. Do you want to be divorced? Do you want to be married?" And so, and so the answer is yes. If you want to be married, you go. And it's a funny story. It's really interesting, but it's why we've been married for 26 years. So
Well, God bless
therapy,
you for
yes.
that. I mean, honestly, that is something that not enough people do, I don't think. And believe me, that's where I'm heading next. I got my own things to work on, and then we got to go into that as well. I think sooner than later, too. So here's what I did. Here's a decision that I made.
Okay.
And it's very interesting when we think about decisions and how I think the human brain uh, breaks sometimes and causes us to make these decisions. So basically, what I did is, girlfriend was out this weekend. I, instead of just enjoying a quiet night by myself, hanging out with the cat, uh, felt a little jealous and accused her of cheating based on some
Uh-oh.
innocuous footage that I obtained because of my own insecurities and paranoia, I guess. So, I was wrong, clearly, and it was a decision that, had I seen something different, or had I taken a moment to say, maybe check in, maybe calmly ask what's going on, but instead, my decision was to accuse, project,
Oh.
to say, come get your stuff immediately. She has approved me talking about this, by the way. So,
Oh, good.
yeah, definitely wanted to get that permission on there first. The slips are signed. Um, so, yeah, really just projecting a lot of bad insecurities onto her. And she reacted, and it's something that I have come to the realization very quickly when she called me that night that I had hurt somebody that I deeply care about in that decision. When there were so many other possible decisions, better decisions that I could have made. And for a few days this week, that completely broke me. I'm happy to say that, albeit on thin ice, she and I have talked, and I think that I put in the work to say the right things and mean them. But boy, do I got my work cut out for me here, because you can make a decision, and this was a span of maybe 15 seconds, and if that decision isn't thought upon, it can really upend your life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I've made a couple of those myself. And, a couple of them spurred on by, sometimes other people, like cheerleaders of bad decisions.
Yeah.
I don't I don't know how quite to call a cheerleader a bad decision. I think my friend being a cheerleader, almost a similar situation as you, you know, going into a club in my 20s and seeing the person that I was dating talking particularly close to someone else,
Uh huh.
and and being somewhat intoxicated and then having a cheerleader near me that was like, "If I were you, I'd punch him," and I was like, "That is an awesome idea," and that is such a good idea that just made its way into my ear at this point that I think I'm just gonna go ahead and execute right now, and it was just so random that I just sort of walked up and just sort of whacked him, and 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 I mean, you know, she was laughing. I think she was kind of thinking, "Oh, that's so outlandish. I didn't think you'd actually do it." But then there was just no moment of pause, and I just there was no filter and moment of pause at all, and it just went straight to execution. So I've been there. I
Yeah.
understand. You see something, and you already started from some weird space, and you see something. I of course had an assistant that was like, "Yeah, I see it too, so go hit him."
Oh, boy.
And and then it's interesting because of course the person he was talking to was actually somebody I knew from high school, and she was like, didn't know me as being somebody who regularly punches somebody.
Right.
um so she was kind of laughing at me, thinking it was kind of a joke too, but I was all but really pretty serious. And of course we got into a conversation outside the club that everybody got to see. And I think we drew quite a crowd. I mean, it was really quite an experience. He had given me the key to his apartment. I had dramatically thrown the key at him. I mean, it was really quite a theatrical thing. I'm Italian, it was a
Yes,
lot of
me too.
hand gesturing. Even if you didn't know we were talking about it, was quite enjoyable.
Y-
Um, and and then like you, I had to work my way back into the trust circle
Yeah.
after that,
Well,
that
Lynn, I
you
mean,
could talk to people.
with all due respect, you did that in your 20s. I'm several weeks away from being a 42-year-old man.
Right?
I mean, come on, people. Uh,
No, well, I think it's a compliment. She's hot, right? She's gotta be hot. Did you try to, like, tell her, like, "Look, you're just so hot.
you
Like,
are.
I'm sorry."
If she is
You
listening
know?
to this, I have a feeling you're going to dig me in deeper here, but
Oh, oh, no.
I know that she is very attractive, yes, but that is, I mean, she is just
Jokes,
a wonderful, really kind, wonderful, open person. So it's far more than just that, but yeah, she's really hot. um,
Well, I mean, if you really want to win her back over, we can talk about that first decision when you first met her. I mean, I think reliving sort of when you first met somebody, after you're deep into a relationship, going back to sort of that the first time when you met them. My husband and I were a blind date,
wow.
and I just want to say, the first time we met each other, we neither one of us were looking very good. We did not look good on our first date, and that is something that we laugh about, but we do like to relive it because it reminds us of, making that sort of that first leap into a relationship. It's kind of fun, especially after 26 years.
That's really beautiful, Lynn. I
Actually
mean that
28.
honestly.
We were Yeah, married for 26, dated for 2 cuz my mom needed a year for the wedding, and so there you go.
So you count the
Um
dating years.
Well, I feel like I feel like you should
I'm
count the
with
dating
you on
years.
that, and people don't do that, and I think it's weird.
It is. It is weird. Yeah, I mean, it's now official, right? I've crossed over that I have been with him longer than I've been with anybody, including my parents, right?
Hmm.
Living with my parents. Once you get past the 18-year mark, then whoever you're with, this becomes the person who you've spent more of your life with. And so we kind of crossed over that. So it's interesting.
Well, I look forward to seeing if I can make it to the 18-month mark before we get years, but we'll see how it goes. Let's change topics.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
I've got a whole list of a few episodes, and Lynn, I apologize. I'm apologizing to all of my guests. I have had to listen to a lot of podcasts lately as I churn out episode after episode here in season one. But I have paid attention to quite a few of yours, and I really liked the one with your son, the living alone. And it's so important to have that experience if you're able to. I don't want to project on people who don't have the ability to have that experience in their 20s because it's harder nowadays than when we were in our 20s. But to live alone, oh my God, for the first time in your 20s, what a wonderful world. Tell us a little bit about that episode and your experience with your son, talking through those things as mother and son.
Yeah, it was really kind of interesting because he was coming from what I call a mojo dojo casadosa house. It was full of jujitsu guys. They were sleeping on floors,
Oh,
sleeping on
wow.
couches. Yeah, it was quite the man cave,
Let me
and it
stop.
also was
Sorry, Lynn, I got to
it was
stop
tough.
you. Did you have to walk into that place and do the dishes? Yes or no?
I had to actually stay at that place and remote work upstairs in his
It
room
was that bad.
for my job. I yeah, I and I did not offer to do the dishes. He actually, one of the jiu-jitsu guys was actually quite the did not like dishes. So it's kind of nice that one of them had a mom that taught them to do the dishes. I swear, um, I taught my son, but he was not doing them. So I didn't do any cleaning, but I tried not to do any judging by the smells and the sounds and just the sheer bodies laying everywhere. I understood what I was going into a man cave. So that's kind of where he started. And then the lease came up, and that's when I got a phone call that, maybe he was ready and maybe he should go look at a single apartment by himself. And that's the kind of call you want to get from your 20-year-old son, because I really felt like my family is a bunch of extroverts, and I really felt like living alone is a great time to sort of be with yourself have things your way for a little while, have to deal with your own trash, your own smells, your own everything.
Right.
It's I advise it for everybody. I did it. I advise it for everybody, for sure.
Art buying is an interesting one, and this is not one I was able to listen to. I find this so subjective, art, and it seems like there's maybe three wealthy people in New York who are dictating what art is. I don't know if that's just a conspiracy theory that I'm going to start here or if that's factual, but I do know a lot of artists, and I do know how much luck goes into making it work. So I'm curious how that episode went and what the discussion was there.
Yeah, actually, it's I'm glad you bring that up because it's really important to know that that episode is all about art buying decisions from emotions and how art makes you feel,
Mm,
and that doesn't mean that the art needs to be expensive. And I think that was something that, I had a guest on there where art grabbed them, and so they couldn't look away, and they decided to buy that art, and then it suddenly became a passion and almost a legacy. And so art should make you feel something. And then on top of that, the artists who made it, they want to feel something too. So it's kind of like if you can purchase art in front of the artist, it's sort of a filling someone else's bucket, filling your bucket. You're acknowledging their gift. They're giving you a gift and a gift that like keeps on going. Um, so some of the art that I've bought has been like $15,
hmm.
but it evokes an emotion. So that whole episode is really just his journey, and then some sort of advice as far as if you walk by something and it grabs you, um and maybe it could be an expensive piece of art like in an art gallery, you can always go buy the print. You can buy a postcard, right?
Right.
I mean, and you can still get that same feeling that the art gives you, if that feeling is happiness, that if it's just conveying something. So it's really interesting. It's I think afterwards, several of my friends are like, I want to go to a gallery with you. And I want to go to a gallery with him because I want to see how walking those walls makes me feel. Makes me feel like if I want to buy something. Um, and then, there's also just enjoyment of art. Um, but if you buy it, you can enjoy it every day,
Every day.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And you'll know it when you see it too, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Bel
Yeah, and I mean, I'm very eclectic. I wouldn't say I have any one style, but I will say if you go to, a little art walk and, you're right there in front of the artist as you're looking at their artwork. I mean, even if you don't buy anything, just kind of, giving them a smile and a validation that their creativity is acknowledged is just, I don't know, it's a good interaction anyway, right? Even if you don't buy.
yes, yes, I do feel that. I lived in the South though, and just a lot of pictures of birds. I got tired of the art galleries and the birds. It's like there. I know you're in the South. I know you're by the water. The Spanish moss is one of my favorite things. We got to do something different. Artists in the South, wow me. That's all I'm saying. But
Right? I
what
hear
was
you.
that? What did I just do there? Um, but seriously, folks, if you are able to just go on Google Maps and type in art galleries wherever you might be and just go enjoy. I don't mean this as as a way to get brownie points here, but my girlfriend is a talented painter, and one of the first things she gave me was this painting, and it's on a canvas in my apartment in my living room. And my God, I stare at it every day. It's something that go to an art gallery, see what appeals to you, and this was a case where she had kind of forced that upon me. But yet, when I looked at it for the very first time, I was like, "My God, this is amazing!" So it's really cool art. Anyways, now
Yeah, personal too. Yeah.
marathon running. Are you yourself a runner?
Oh my god, absolutely not.
Okay,
Are
good.
you?
No, in fact, I not only do I distrust people who enjoy it, people who say they live for it, they love it. I quit smoking when I was 28 years old because you can't be a broadcaster, hacking up a lung. So I decided that if I was going to make a go at it in broadcasting, I needed to stop doing this thing and also my health and whatever. Um, so I saw what happened to my dad when he quit smoking. His metabolism stopped. He was skinnier than me, he was skin and bones, to over 300 pounds. And I did not want that to happen to me. So part of the process with quitting smoking for me was to get into exercise, to keep in shape. And so I started trying to run, and my God, I've never been more miserable in my life. Eventually, I found hiking, and that struck a nice balance for me of getting exercise, getting out into nature. But there was just something about running. So, marathon running as a decision really makes me curious.
Well, that one is particularly interesting because not only did this person decide to run, and she was not a runner. Um, it's important to know she was not a runner. Uh, her decision sparked from the fact she got dumped, and she pulled a Forrest Gump. Okay,
Mm.
she got dumped. She was upset. She went for a run with, like, regular shoes, just because she didn't know what else to do. She
Ooh.
didn't want to be on the couch. She just ran. And then all of a sudden now she has set a goal for herself to run a marathon on every continent, and she will be running in Antarctica. So I I mean, how you go from you're dumped and you run around the block to, okay, this is my goal. This is now a new goal, and now I'm going to run it in every continent. And she just ran in London, and Antarctica is her next one. So I found that extremely interesting, and I wasn't inspired to go run, but I think what I learned a lot from it was, how, again, you and I talk about making lemonade out of lemons. It's like she found this weird passion, and she hadn't even done any other not only that, she wasn't athletic at all. Like, she didn't do sports. She's just an elementary school teacher. She didn't even do sports when she was in school. Um so the whole thing is just really, making a decision, sticking with it, and then what a commitment to that decision, and never looking back after, right? I don't know where that guy is, but I mean, she's fit, right?
Right.
She's uber fit.
Yeah.
And so afterwards, I think I was inspired by her commitment and thought, gosh, what have I committed to that is such a physical challenge like that? But I'm with you. It did not make me want to run. I have other sports I'm interested in. Didn't make me want to run.
It does hit some people like a drug, though. It's something that that dopamine you get when you run. I remember having that, but yeah, just not for me. But God bless her. I mean, what a wonderful story that is, and for her to turn heartache into living until 140 years old, and being able to laugh at me in my grave because I made fun of runners here on this podcast will be something that all runners can gather and do. I'll be buried somewhere, probably in Ohio. Who knows? But, um, Lynn, before we wrap things up, what's your takeaway from? You've got a few seasons of this Decision Diaries out, as far as what people should know about decisions, maybe that we haven't touched on already.
Oh, wow. Well, there's so many. And I think I'm starting to get to a point where I am like, I got to keep this going, because someone will come up to me, or even just like when I'm watching television or something like that, I'll think to myself, "Oh, that's another decision we haven't covered, and that's another decision we haven't covered." So, I think exploring people's take on decisions, and then understanding that decisions are the original basis of lots of stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say, it's for me, it's kind of an interesting journey of also hearing about decisions that maybe I'll never make, like running or mountain climbing. Those are two that you're just never going to catch me doing, but I love meeting the people who are. So, I want to keep it coming. I hope if anybody listening to this, if you think of you just think about your single day, how many decisions you make. First of all, just like deciding what to wear. Like, I don't know why that's such a big deal for me when I wake up in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
but I look at my wardrobe and I say, I don't have anything to wear. And, my husband laughs at me because it's obviously full of clothes. But, the second you get out of bed, you're starting to make those decisions. So I guess I want everybody to know I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to keep meeting people
Good.
that keep making decisions, and again, there are no bad ones. I don't talk about those decisions that are what do you call negative, or like deciding to cancel somebody. I'm not going to give you a forum to talk about that. But deciding to love somebody, yeah, come on my podcast, talk about it. That's
Thank you.
that's a great decision.
We've had enough of that, certainly. Lynn Layfield, Decision Diaries. Any social medias or websites, or can people listen everywhere? How do people find you?
Well, yeah, we have an Instagram. It posts some funny quotes about decisions, both good and bad. And we then that on Instagram's Decision Diaries. I have a website, decisiondiaries.com. Also on Facebook, Decision Diaries, and then on all of the podcast platforms as well as YouTube. And amazingly enough, I got Decision Diaries on that one too. So consistency is the key. I just
Absolutely.
happened to pick something that obviously nobody else has done, and I got it on the platforms. I'm not on Twitter because Chris, I don't get it. I can't. I don't get it.
It's good as the sports broadcasting work that I do. It makes sense for me to be on there, but yeah, for the general, well, I don't know. Maybe for a podcaster, I guess you probably should. But what do I know? I'm terrible with social media, just terrible. But I get what you don't get. Believe me.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you hashtag it right. I don't know how you talk in small things. I mean, I have no idea. I'm a podcaster. I go until I decide I don't.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Boy, doesn't that sound that's if you can put the definition of a podcaster into the Merriam-Webster, that is it right there.
Absolutely. I thank you so much, Chris, for inviting me on.
Well, please come back sometime. Lynn Layfield, once again, everybody. That'll wrap it up for another episode of There's Too Many Podcasts. It's a podcast about podcasts. Thanks for listening.